Well, as you can tell, behind me we have one of our research vineyards, and right now it's about it's late October. In my hand, and I have a grape, the grape cane or stem, and I have one fruit cluster that's already maturing that could be harvested any time. This is actually a wine grape variety, and it will make a very good red wine. So when you think about grape production, and first thing you need to think about is, what kind of grapes should I grow? And are we talking about table grapes, and are we talking about wine grapes, or are we talking about juice grape, or are we talking about grapes for jam and jelly? And then there are different varieties for different things. And for example, if you want to grow good premium quality wine, if you want to produce a high quality wine, you pretty much have to grow high quality premium type grape varieties for that. Let's just go through some of those varieties very quickly. For wine grapes, and some of the varieties include Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, you have heard of those, and Cab Franc. Those will produce very high quality wines. That's the good news, but the bad news is that they are not very cold hardy. And actually we found out this past growing season, because of the polar vortexes, many of our grape varieties were damaged or even killed. So for wine grapes, we kind of have to settle for more cold hardy varieties. They can produce pretty good wines, but at the same time they are cold hardy, and those varieties are more like hybrid varieties. They would be the hybrids between our American type grapes and also European grapes. Cab Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Riesling, Chardonnay, those are all European varieties. They are not truly winter hardy in Ohio. But the hybrid ones, some of the common varieties are Vidal Blanc, Cival Blanc, Chambourcin, and Noiret, and those are all common hybrid varieties for wine production. For home gardeners, a lot of folks like to grow juice grapes or jelly grapes. One common variety is called Concord. Concord has been around for a long time, and I always like to use the example of my drive to Niagara Falls. So whenever anybody goes to Niagara Falls on I-90, when you see acres and acres of grapes and blue grapes, and that would be Concord grapes. And then the one good thing about there are many good things about that particular variety. One is it's a very good fresh eating grape, and as long as you like that taste, and it's very productive and very cold hardy. And some folks make jams and jellies out of those, and then Concord jam and jelly, and they taste excellent. And then some folks will make a little bit juice out of it, and others will even make wine from Concord grapes. To me, Concord grape wine may not be the best quality wine, but it does, like folks would say, well, it does have a good kick to it, and that's about you can say about Concord wine. And so for people who like sweet wine, and that's not too awful, but wine connoisseurs, and they really like. They probably wouldn't drink much Concord wine, but other folks will think it's just fine. And then what about table grapes? when we go to a grocery store, and typically you will see green grapes, and you will see you will see some red grapes, you will see some dark colored grapes. Green grapes and typically would be a typical variety would be Thompson seedless, and then the red variety is flame seedless. And then we get questions like this, and can I grow Thompson seedless or flame seedless? Well, you know about my typical extension answer, yes, you can. But the problem is it will be very, very difficult because they are not cold hardy in Ohio. So if you do insist on growing flame seedless or Thompson seedless, you have to bury the canes. I mean, literally bury the canes with at least 1 foot of the soil, and so they can overwinter. Otherwise, the canes will be killed. And so when you select grape varieties, and the first thing is what kind of grapes can I actually grow? For Ohio, I would say mostly native grapes, and that would be Concord, Catawba, Delaware, and those are our native grapes or American grapes. They are cold hardy. Or you can grow hybrids, and that would be the hybrids between native grapes and European grapes. And so some of the hybrid varieties are Reliance seedless. It's a red seedless variety. And then there are others like Mars seedless and Saturn, Jupiter. And those are upcoming. While Saturn and Jupiter are more popular varieties that are definitely worth looking into. So once you select one or two varieties, and then most of our hybrid varieties are not grafted, and so you don't have to worry about where the graft union is. With grape varieties. They're not like apples. If you just plant one variety and then you will get a crop because grapevines are self-fruitful. And then the neat thing about grapevine is you don't even need honeybees for that. They're pollinated by wind. So as long as you have a little bit of wind movement or air circulation, and then the grape clusters will be shaking a little bit, and then you get fruit sets. Even though you do see honeybees in the vineyard, it's really not necessary for them to pollinate our grapevines. So typically the grapevines, and you can just have one vine, and that would just be fine. You can get plenty fruit, and typically you can get 20 to 30 pounds of fruits on one vine. And then a good question is how long does it take a grapevine to produce anything? And typically when you plant a young grapevine, first year we don't really want that vine to produce a crop at all. We just want that vine to grow as much as they can. And so I'll just go ahead prune off this cluster and pretend this is a young vine. And so when you plant a young grapevine, when you first get it, it's actually very small. You may have two or three buds and just like a little handle. And so the grapevines come as in bare-rooted, dormant variety. Dormant vine. So when you plant it, make sure you spread the roots evenly, and once you do that, dig a good-sized hole and spread out the roots. So when you get a vine, and typically it's probably more like this. It's a very short stick or a very short handle. So you plant your grapevine. In May or April. But May will be better. If there are two ways to get to purchase grapevines. You can get the nursery growing, actively growing plants, so you definitely do not want to plant those in April. You wait until May. Or you can get bare-rooted dormant plants, and those you can plant them in April. But May is a better time. Anyway, once you get your grapevines, and then grapevines like full sun, as you can tell, our vineyard is in the wide open, so they do not like any kind of shading at all. And then once you get your grapevine, and then the first year pruning is very, very easy. So what I would do is I would look for buds, and as you can tell, grape buds are very, very big, and so like this one here, you can easily see it. So what I would do is check for the buds, and typically you have 1, 2, and I would probably look for maybe 2 to 3 buds. And then I would make one cut. You can make sure the cuts are kind of slanted like this. Okay, and you also leave a little bit of a stub. So make sure it's slanted, and then about a half inch or so above the top bud. So when you make a cut like this, it's kind of shocking to a lot of people. You have a nice grapevine, and all of a sudden you cut it to 2 to 3 buds. So what's going to happen is this bud, they will all sprout, and then they will produce shoots, and then those shoots from the first year will turn into your trunks. So you have 2 trunks, and then out of 3 shoots, and you can select the 2 strongest canes or stems, and let those become your trunks. So you let them grow, and actually you use a little bamboo pole or a rod of some sort. You keep everything vertical, so you let them grow. And then as you can tell behind me, and then with the vineyard, you have your posts, and you also have wires on top. You have a trellis. So what you do is you let the canes, you let the stems grow up to about 5.5 feet tall, and one goes one way, another one goes another way. So you have your trunks, 2 trunks going up, and one arm goes one way, another one goes another way. So basically your grapevine looks like a person. So you have 1 or 2 trunks, and then you have one arm going one way, another arm going another way. So your future shoots will actually come from your main arm. We call that a cordon. And we're just going to take a short break, and so when we move to an older vines, you can see what the cordon looks like. I'm standing in front of a table grapevine right now. As you can see here, what we have done is we actually trained 2 canes. We use a bamboo pole to keep our grapevines vertical, and our research assistants have done an excellent job doing this. And so from the bottom, you have canes that come up, and then this has been a very good growing season. Well, what we have here, they are hybrids, and so they are very cold hardy. So once you they grew quite a bit, and then you have 2 trunks, and then one of them, both of them reached the top wire. So this one arm will go one way, another arm will go another way, and then this arm will extend more and more, and then once it reaches to the middle, and then we'll just cut them off right there, and so they wouldn't extend any longer. So as you can see on this side, they grew quite a bit, and then next season they're going to grow longer, and then these shoots will these buds will sprout, and they will produce long canes. A lot of folks are kind of scared by the concept of pruning. They're always wondering whether pruning will actually hurt the vine or whether it will kill them. It turns out that pruning is really not that difficult. So what I would do is when you have canes, and then most of those canes will droop like this. And I always tell folks, if you can count up to 5, you are just fine. And then the first thing I do is I would cut, because from the arm or core down, they would just kind of go all the way to the ground, and you may have 12 to 15 canes. So what I would do is from top, and I would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I would cut it right there. And that will, instead of counting everything, I would just count up to 5 and then cut it at the base. But make sure you do leave a 4-inch stub. So before you even think about it, and I would just cut everything to 5 buds, and that will definitely reduce the number of the vegetation, and then you will get rid of the big mess. And so when you look at the core down, everything will, all of the canes will have 5 buds now. And then once you do that, and you have if you just stop there, you are actually doing a whole lot better than most folks. You will have an abundant crop, and at the same time, well, you may have a little bit too much, because every single shoot will produce quite a few canes from the buds, and then you will have more crop than necessary. So what you need to do is, once you cut everything to 5 buds, and then every other one, you can cut it back to just 1 bud. So the longer cane, they are more like fruiting canes, and shorter canes, we call them renewal spurs. We can pause a little bit, and then I'll grab one long cane and then show you what a 5-bud cane looks like, and also a renewal spur looks like. Okay, right now this is still October, and we can pretend that this is more like March. The typical question is, when is the best time to prune grapevines? For training, typical prune, well, pretty much most of the pruning is done in March, and early March should be the perfect time. I always tease folks, March 1st is when you do everything. So you from the main core down or main arm, you will get a lot of canes that droop like this. So we talk about cutting everything back to 5 buds, and so you can count, okay, let's see, there's a nice bud there, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can, once you count up to 5, and then if you're off by 1, it's really not that big of a deal. So what I would do is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then make sure you leave a little stub. So once you do that, typically from the first bud, you will get a long shoot without clusters, and second or third will give you a nice shoot with some clusters. Sometimes they will produce more than 1, and so ideally you would want to have just 1 cluster per shoot, and commercial growers actually will do cluster thinning. So the second and third will produce a crop, and 4th and 5th very likely will just produce a cane without clusters. So if you cut everything back to 5, you will definitely have a crop. So you will, after you cut everything to 5, and then you come back, you cut every other one back to 1. So what I would do is make sure that particular one has a very nice visible bud. So in this case, this bud is very big, so I would come here, okay, I would say I would cut here, leave a little spur, and this is called the renewal spur. So all you do is cut everything to 5, and then cut every other one back to one bud, and one bud spur or a 1 bud stem is actually called a renewal spur. Very quickly, switching gears, and we'll talk about disease control. A lot of our grapes actually are very susceptible to diseases, even the ones that are not as susceptible, and they still can get quite a bit diseases. One common disease is called black rot. What it is it's very common. We could just pretty much count on getting a few phone calls every year, and it typically goes like this. My grapes start out nice and green, and I get, and then the grapes will get bigger, and then they will turn black before they mature or ripen, and that's called black rot. It is a fungal disease, and it's actually pretty difficult to control. And then our extension plant pathologist, Dr. Mike Ellis, would typically tell us the most critical period for black rot control is 1 week before bloom, 1 week during bloom, and also 1 week after bloom. And then you also have to spray the right fungicide. And the fungicide for black rot control is mancozeb. So make sure you spray grapevines and clusters and 1 week before bloom, and then one more time during bloom, and then one more time after bloom. And then there are other what's called the cover sprays, fungicide sprays. It's important to refer to OSU Extension publication 780, so you can get the grape spray schedule. And then grapes also get other diseases, and they get downy mildew, and they also get powdery mildew. It takes different types of fungicides for that. So you definitely wanted to check out the grape schedule, and so you can control diseases very effectively. And then grapes do get a couple of insects, and one of them is called Japanese beetle, and you could spray them a couple times, and that should be pretty good. And then definitely catch them when before a large population shows up. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to control. And other insects, grape berry moth is a common insect, and then you have the spotted wing Drosophila, which is getting more and more serious, and then brown marmoset stink bugs are getting to be a big problem. So just watch for a type of insects. And then with grapes, if you were to start out with a few varieties, and I would say Mars seedless is the one that I would start out with. It looks like Concord. It doesn't taste as good as Concord, but it's much less disease susceptible. And then if you want to try the second variety, I would say either Saturn or Jupiter would be two varieties to try. And then Saturn and Jupiter are both table grapes. We tasted, actually tasted a couple berries, and just even today, they taste extremely good. And then if you want to try a fourth or fifth one, and Reliance seedless is pretty good, and that's what I did my PhD research on, and I enjoyed it, and it's a good variety. But it does have its problems. And then if you insist on growing Concord, and you just have to know that that particular variety is highly susceptible to black rot. And then for folks who really enjoy growing premium wine grapes, and then Norway would be good, Chamberson would be good, Vidal Blanc is pretty good. And then if you want to grow European varieties, you probably should talk to me or think about it much more seriously before you get into growing cold sensitive varieties, because it will be very difficult to grow them. But grape growing is a lot of fun, and hopefully you will have quite a bit of success. Okay, very briefly, I kind of like to talk about our training systems. Just previously, we took a look at the vines that were trained more like a high cordon. And so you have a main trunk, and then trunks go all the way, and then up to the top, and you have one arm going one way, another one going the other way. That's called the high cordon high cordon, the high cordon training system, high cordon single curtain training system, and that would be what's more typical for your hybrids and for your American varieties. But if somebody were to grow the cold tender varieties like Riesling, Chardonnay, Cab Franc, and Cabernet Sauvignon. So what we typically do is we have our graft union right here. So the bottom part is a rootstock, and then this part from here up, and you have your variety. So what we have is once we get to the bottom wire, we actually let the cordon grow horizontally on the first or top wire. And then once you do that, then all of the new canes are actually trained between these two wires, and this is what's called the vertical shoot positioning system, VSP. And this is because most of our European varieties tend to grow upright. When we have them upright, and then in March, and we'll come back and we'll actually cut everything to 2-bud spurs, and we'll let them produce fruits, and then all of our fruit clusters will actually be in this area, and then everything will be exposed to sunlight, and then we'll have all the fruit clusters will be well exposed to sunlight, and then the fruit quality will be very, very high, and then that will high quality fruits are a must for premium wine production. And we're just going to stop right here, and then we'll go back to our high cordon, and then look at the high cordon for a couple of minutes. We are back at our new grapevine site. As you can tell, with this particular training system, we have a bottom wire, and this is actually called a catch wire, so you can actually catch the vines, and so they wouldn't flop everywhere. So what it is when the grapevines grow, and we tie them to a couple bamboo shoots or bamboo rods. We do use a little bit of clip, and you don't have to do that. So you have your bottom wire, you have your top wire. So with the high cordon single curtain system, we'll have two trunks that will go up, and then one arm will go one way, another arm will go the other way, and then the permanent arm on the trellis is actually called a cordon. So once you do this, this is called high cordon because it's on the top wire. And then this top wire, depending on how tall you are, if you are short, and then the wire would be a little bit lower. If you are very tall, and wire be a little bit taller. And I'm kind of somewhat in between, and depending on which person you talk to. My volleyball friends will call me short, but once I go to China, and I'm a pretty tall Chinese guy, so you never know, depending on your perspective. But anyway, this is called the high cordon. The high cordon is kind of high, and then bilateral system, so it goes two ways, and then once everything goes up to the cordon like this, and all the canes will actually come from the main cordon, so you wouldn't really have anything on the bottom. So whenever you see shoots coming out, you actually remove it. We do that when the shoots are when the buds are very small, and so they will be very easy to remove, and you normally do that I would say early May or so, and to keep the trunk nice and clear. So that's our main way to grow our hybrids or American, the hybrids and American grape varieties. It's called high cordon single curtain bilateral system. It's a mouthful, but what it is you have a main trunk, and you have two main arms, and then the top portion is pretty high, and that's about it. And that's what I would recommend for home gardeners.